Sharon and I, my wife and I, we meet, we get married, we start off with nothing. I mean, y'all start off with nothing.
Imagine this. Congress cancels its credit cards, stops borrowing trillions, and decides to live strictly by the rules of personal finance guru Dave Ramsey. No more deficit spending, no more national debt, just a strict, no-nonsense financial diet. Sounds like something out of a political sci-fi novel, right? But what if this actually happened? What would the United States look like if it followed Dave Ramsey's baby steps? Let's take a closer and slightly ridiculous look at how America would change if it adopted Ramsey's famously frugal financial principles. And hey, if you're into wild economic hypotheticals and want to see more Money Meets Madness content like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Now let's begin. Step 1. A $1,000 emergency fund for a $6 trillion budget? Dave Ramsey's first baby step is simple. Save $1,000 for emergencies. For an average American, that's enough to cover a car repair or an unexpected dental bill. But for the US government, that's like trying to put out a forest fire with a squirt gun. In 2024, federal spending totaled approximately $6.8 trillion, according to the Peter G. Peterson Foundation. If we scaled that 1,000 concept proportionally to government size, the US would need a rainy day fund of around $100 billion just to get started. That's right, before paying off any debt or investing in the future, the government would need to stash away an emergency fund large enough to buy Twitter, twice. It's a funny thought, but the concept of preparing for emergencies instead of reacting to them might actually help avoid last-minute trillion-dollar bailouts, like we saw during COVID-19. If that logic made you laugh or cry, go ahead and smash that like button. It helps more people find these financial tips. Step 2. Pay off all debt from smallest to largest. Now here comes the hard part. Dave Ramsey's most famous rule is to eliminate all debt using the debt snowball method. Start with the smallest debt, pay it off fast, and move to the next one. Building momentum. So what's the US's smallest debt? That's hard to say when the total national debt exceeds $34 trillion according to USA Today. If we followed Dave's plan, the government would stop all new borrowing immediately. No new treasury bonds, no deficit spending, and definitely no debt ceiling drama. But here's the problem. Washington relies heavily on borrowing. In 2024 alone, the federal government ran a budget deficit of over $1.8 trillion, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Going cold turkey on debt would require massive spending cuts or huge tax hikes, neither of which are politically easy or popular. Still, paying off even a fraction of that debt would ease inflation pressures, reduce interest payments, which alone hit $890 billion in 2024, per the Peter G. Peterson Foundation, and improve America's financial credibility. Step 3. Build a real emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses. Once debt is eliminated, Ramsey advises saving 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. For an individual, that's usually a few $1,000s. But for Uncle Sam, that's in the ballpark of $1.5 to $3 trillion. To put that in perspective, that's enough to fund the Department of Defense for over 5 years, or buy every American a PlayStation 5 twice. Having this cushion would mean fewer bailouts, fewer must-pass emergency bills, and more long-term stability. During the 2020 pandemic, the government had to inject trillions into the economy. If we had followed this baby step earlier, we may have avoided at least part of the $6 trillion spike in national debt that followed. Step 4. Invest 15% of income toward retirement. Ramsey's fourth step is investing 15% of your income for retirement. Now, the U.S. isn't retiring anytime soon, but it is responsible for Social Security, Medicare, and the future of over 330 million Americans. According to the 2024 Social Security Trustees Report, the trust fund will run dry by 2034, leading to automatic benefit cuts unless something changes. If the government followed Dave's advice and invested more proactively, maybe into infrastructure, renewable energy, or innovation, future generations might actually get to retire instead of working until they're 93. Step 5. Save for college. Next, Ramsey suggests setting up a college fund. What would that look like at the federal level? Probably increased investment in education, reducing student loan dependence, funding community colleges, and expanding grants. Currently, Americans hold over $1.7 trillion in student loan debt, according to SoFi. If the government helped families follow Ramsey's advice early, we might avoid that mountain of debt altogether. Step 6. Pay off your mortgage early. For individuals, this means paying off your house. For the U.S., it's a bit abstract. Maybe it means paying off federally owned properties or land leases, or finally closing the tab on long-term infrastructure loans. Either way, a debt-free real estate portfolio would free up billions in interest and maintenance costs. Step 7. Live and give generously. The final baby step? Generosity. Once you're debt-free, stable, and secure, it's time to give back. And here's where America already does well. In 2024, the U.S. gave over $60 billion in foreign aid, supporting global health, disaster relief, and education. But under Ramsey's model, that generosity would only come after the national books are balanced. Still, imagine the power of American philanthropy if it wasn't being undercut by trillions in debt payments. Instead of paying interest to banks, we could fund climate solutions, medical breakthroughs, and global education, all with cash on hand. Could the U.S. really follow Ramsey's plan? Now let's get real. Can a country actually live like a debt-free household? Not exactly. Governments need more flexibility than individuals. They use debt strategically during recessions, wars, or pandemics to stabilize the economy. Plus, U.S. Treasury bonds are seen as some of the safest investments in the world. Ditching them entirely could crash global markets and weaken the dollar. However, just because we can't do it all doesn't mean we can't do something. What if we, 1. Reduced unnecessary spending by $500 million fighter jets that don't fly? 2. Required balanced budgets outside emergencies? 3. Set up a national emergency reserve instead of borrowing during every crisis? Even adopting part of Ramsey's philosophy, like avoiding bad debt and planning ahead, could make a huge difference. With all that said, if the U.S. government followed Dave Ramsey's principles, the result would be dramatic. No more borrowing, massive budget reform, a stockpile of savings, and a more disciplined Congress. Well, in theory. Sure, there'd be pain, spending cuts, political gridlock, and probably a few government officials crying in their Teslas. But there'd also be gains, less debt, more stability, and a stronger future. So should America go full Dave Ramsey? Maybe not, but borrowing a few of his baby steps might just help Uncle Sam grow up. And lastly, what do you think about this topic? Feel free to comment below and let us know.
Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more, feel free to check out our next video.